Minister Modi is on his way to Ukraine, a very important, critical visit to Kyiv. It is going to be a brief but a very important one at that, 12 hours within the Ukrainian territory amidst the Russia-Ukraine war. What's really going to happen? What are the expectations from India when it comes to Ukraine? To discuss this and more, I'm being joined by a Ukrainian member of parliament, Yevheniia Kravchuk. Ms. Kravchuk, thank you so much for joining us. She's also the deputy chair of the Committee on Humanitarian and Informational Policy in the Ukrainian parliament. Ms. Kravchuk, I will not take a lot of your time because I know you have to go back into the parliament for a vote. But let's begin with the visit itself. How significant does Ukraine consider this visit? It comes right after Prime Minister Modi's visit to Russia.
Well, first of all, thank you for having this interview. In Ukraine, we do follow the news, and everyone is expecting Prime Minister Modi to visit this week. Why it's historical? It's actually the first visit of Prime Minister of India to Ukraine since Ukrainian independence, which makes more than 30 years. Of course, I saw a lot of criticism regarding this visit to Moscow, and why? Because it was right after the attack on the hospital, the children's hospital, and in this attack, a lot of other sites were attacked in Kyiv. 33 people died, among them very young people and some kids. So of course it was, quite not understandable for many Ukrainians seeing Prime Minister shaking hands to this dictator Putin, because we cannot even call him president. But nevertheless, we are grateful for the visit to Kyiv. And of course, India, as the biggest democratic country in the world, the biggest democracy, as you say about yourself, should play a more significant role on finding just peace to Ukraine, because Ukraine had not done anything wrong in the matters of international rules, international world-based order. We did not attack anyone. Our territory is attacked, our territory is occupied, our people are being killed. And we hope that India could play a more significant role. And of course, join this plan that President Zelensky brings to the table to reach this just for peace.
Right. Ms. Kravchuk, has there also been an understanding within Kyiv of India's position and standing? Because we do know that there was a very strong position that President Zelensky had taken earlier on India's position when it comes to Russia. But slowly I see that there is an understanding on why India has taken the position it has, and what of the position that India has taken when it comes to the Russia-Ukraine war.
Well, first of all, we still believe that India is, on the right side of the history, should be on the right side of the history with other democratic countries. Because what countries do we see that align with Russia? It's, China is still helping. It's North Korea, it's Iran. So countries that cannot be called democratic, some of them are total autocracies. So we're having not a fight between Ukraine and Russia. It's the fight among, of democratic countries that value democracy. India does value democracy, obviously, and autocracies that do not care about any rules. And if you look on this map, we hope that India is with Ukraine.
Well, is that a message that when Prime Minister Modi meets with the top leadership and delegation in Ukraine, is that a message that will be put forth to the Indian leader?
Well, of course, the first and foremost is the message of peace, and we could talk more about how India can help in reaching this just peace of Ukraine. Of course, I see that probably some treaties between countries, bilateral agreement will be signed during this visit, and it's important as well. But for our country, for Ukraine, the most important is our independence, is our sovereignty, and how to find more allies and partners to support it.
Well, Ms. Kravchuk, do you think that Prime Minister Modi or India does have a stake right here in the Russia-Ukraine conflict and can play mediator or a peacemaker?
Well, I haven't heard any statements from Indian leadership that they would like to be, a sort of negotiator or, whatever you call it. And also, we see that India did not vote for any of the resolution that basically say that Ukraine is being occupied. I totally understand that India is thinking about its own citizens. You have a lot of citizens to think about it. But again, it's not just about Ukraine. It's basically about what world we want to live in. Do we accept that some countries break the rules, brutally break the rules that were made and done and after Second World War, or not? So it's as simple as that. What world do we want to live in? And India is not on a separate planet, right? It's still in the same world.
Well, that's again a very important point that you make. But when it comes to the humanitarian crisis, when it comes to the situation on the ground, for now, Ukraine has had a spate of assistance that has come from the West. But do you think that will continue? Should elections in the United States of America look different? Should there be a different or a shift in stance in Europe? In such a scenario, what do you think, and where do you think countries like India and relations with Ukraine would be?
Well, first of all, we do not know the outcome of the elections in the United States, but what we see is actual bipartisan support in Congress. Because at the end of the day, the package was voted. There are some radical voices from both sides, but still, let's say that we have great contact with both Republicans and Democrats, and we plan to put on these contacts. And I also think that United States will not drop into the isolationism. Sometimes they have these periods in history, but still we still see that United States want to keep as great superpower and the democratic power that is guiding democracy. So I think India should play a bigger role as well in saving democracy and saving the normal way of living.
Well, Ms. Kravchuk, before I go back to the India question, just because you also chair the Committee on Humanitarian and Informational Policy, with regards to the war, it seems like Ukraine has made quite a headway. The first time that you've breached Russian territory, evacuations continue in border towns. What's the situation there when it comes to border towns and the Ukrainians who are there, including Indians who have continue to stay back in Ukraine, particularly Indian students?
Yes, and especially a lot of students, they studied in Kharkiv. Kharkiv is a city which is really close to the border of Russia, and it's quite understandable why we are sort of going into Russian territory to push the Russian troops that were going to invade another region, Sumy region, which borders with Kharkiv region. So we made this step faster for them not to invade Sumy region. So that was the logic. Of course, humanitarian situation in this area is quite hard. It's also hard in Donetsk region because constant shelling basically leaves no normal life in this region. So we are evacuating people from not just north of the Sumy region, but also from all of the unoccupied part of Donetsk region. And of course, people understand why it's happening because we're saving their lives, and we value every life. And we do hope that more students, when we reach peace, will come from India, because I'm from doctor's family, and students in India are traditionally going to medical institutes, and in the institute, in the academy, medical academy where my parents studied. Now there are a lot of students from India, and we just work together perfectly fine.
Well, coming back to the India position, the fact that you mentioned what India's position has been and the voting pattern of India when it comes to Russia-Ukraine war at the United Nations. But India is also uniquely positioned where it has very strong ties with Russia, but also historical ties with Ukraine, particularly to do with how many Indian students actually go to Ukraine. In such a scenario, is there a specific expectation that you'd see President Zelensky put forward when it comes to Prime Minister Modi?
Well, of course, we would like to deepen our ties with India, and we have a great ambassador to India from Ukraine. He's my friend and former general, and I hope it will help, bringing some mutual projects together. And we had a visit of Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dmytro Kuleba, to India. And I really hope that we could have some more steps in parliament diplomacy, because I think it's it wasn't that actively done. I'll be happy to come to India and meet parliamentarians from India.
That's nice to hear. Again, before I let you go, my final question to you is on the Russia-Ukraine war and what's happening on the situation when it comes to the war front. We have seen positions that have been taken, but do you think in the near future there can be some sort of a negotiation, or the two sides coming to the negotiating table to find peace, or the issue of territories occupied by Russia is very clear to Ukraine that they will have to withdraw, and not just withdraw from the currently occupied territories, but also from the Donbas region and from Crimea?
Well, Donbas and Crimea are occupied territories that are occupied since 2014, at least part of Donbas since 2014. And President Zelensky said numerous times that we are not against of having Russia, for example, on the second peace summit, and we want to have other partners, other countries sitting together, not just Ukraine and Russia. But Russia is not showing any sign of normality in these peace negotiations, because what they say aloud, they say that Ukraine has to withdraw from their own territories, for example, from Kherson that was liberated in 2022. Can you imagine how it sounds to Ukrainians that we have to withdraw Ukrainian troops from a freed region? So at first we have to push to Russia to be in reality and to come to these negotiations on the basis of United Nations statute, on the respect of sovereignty of Ukraine.
Right, Ms. Kravchuk, thank you so much for joining us over here. I hope you join us after the visit as well. But this is a very crucial one. It's a historic visit, first by an Indian Prime Minister, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi is going to be there for a very short period. There are security concerns, so we'll have to see how that coverage really goes through when Prime Minister Modi is there meeting President Zelensky. Thank you, Ms. Kravchuk, for joining us here on India Today Global.
Thank you for having me.